Satan said, will you choose to submit? Will you bend down on your knees in praise? Should we submit to laws and edicts forced upon us? Orders and commands do not jar well with liberty. Let the weak sing songs and praise. Rise up, be free, and let's make a hell of this heaven. Let's enter back into Paradise Lost.
Maybe you got lost somewhere, swimming too far off the beach, off the coastline.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to The Cause. My name is Rob, and today we are going to be covering books 5 and 6 of Paradise Lost, which are in volume 4 of the Harvard Classic series. I have covered books 1 through 4 in previous videos, if you want to check those out first. This poem has been such a treat to read through, and we have a lot of ground to cover, so let's honestly just dive right in. I will set the stage of where we are currently at, and then we'll move right into Book 5. Book 5 overview. Adam and Eve wake up, and Eve tells Adam about her dream with Satan. God, in the meantime, sends Raphael to warn man that an enemy is lurking amongst them. Raphael enters Earth and sits down to eat and speak with Adam and Eve. Raphael explains the reason he is there and tells the backstory of Satan's first disobedience and fall from grace. Let's begin. So Adam awakes, and he finds his beautiful wife still beside him, but she's asleep. Her cheeks are found to be glowing, almost like she's had an unrestful night. Bending down close, he speaks. Awake, my fairest, my espoused, my latest found, heaven's last best gift, my ever new delight. Gentlemen, let me point out something here. If you ever have to risk waking up your lady, Adam sets a great example of how to do that. Notice the patience of Adam when you read this. Eve awakes, and she says she had a very distressing dream. Remember in book 4 that the angels came down, and Satan, he was whispering in Eve's ear during the night. They thwarted his plan, and he escaped. Eve is waking up after that night, and she tells Adam her dream was not a normal one, but of offense and trouble, which my mind knew never till this irksome night. Methought, close at my ear, one called me forth to walk with gentle voice. I thought it thine. She thought the voice was Adam's, but we know from book 4 who the voice actually was. It was Satan trying to snare her into a trap. In the dream, she follows the voice, and it takes her to a tree, where she sees an angel-like creature standing close by. On that tree he also gazed, and "O fair plant," said he, "with fruit surcharged, deigns none to ease thy load and taste thy sweet, nor God nor man. Is knowledge so despised, or envy, or what reserve forbids to taste?" I mean, why would he put this tree here if he did not want you to eat from it? Logically, you should be able to eat, right? This said, he paused not, but with venturous arm he plucked, he tasted, me damp horror chilled, at such bold words vouched with a deed so bold. So Eve just sees this angelic creature eat the fruit, and he doesn't die. She almost seems to admire the boldness, it seems. The creature continues on. "O fruit divine, sweet of thyself, but much more sweet thus cropped, forbidden here, it seems, as only fit for gods, yet able to make gods of men." The creature seems to be talking while he's looking at the fruit on the tree. He turns to Eve, and now he speaks directly to her. "Here, happy creature, fair angelic Eve, partake thou also. Happy thou art. Happier thou mayest be. Worthier canst not be. Taste this and be henceforth among the gods, thyself a goddess." I mean, let's be honest. Something like this happens in one of my dreams, and I'm eating some fruit. Who wouldn't want to be a god or a goddess? Give me some of those angelic wings and let me fly around, and I'm biting into an apple. He holds out the fruit to her mouth, which he had plucked. The pleasant, savory smell so quickened appetite that I, methought, could not but taste. At this point, they both ascend up into the sky, and her guide, he disappears. He almost had her. Eve, at this point, is happy to just wake up and realize that this was just a dream. But what she doesn't know is Michael and the other angels have just saved her from the deceit of Satan. In reply to Eve's dream, Adam is comforting, and he says that evil can't really reside in us. He is kind of confused why this dream would even occur. They are created pure. So he tells her that what in sleep thou didst abhor to dream, waking thou never will consent to do. If we are honest, we've all had these dreams where you wake up and you're like, dang, I really did that. They both get ready to head out to the field to work. But first, they deliver their orisons to God, which are just prayers. God looks down and he takes pity on the clueless too. He needs to warn them of what is happening. This way nobody can come back and say, well, God didn't tell us anything. Raphael is summoned by God, and he will be the angel to deliver the message. He says, advise him of his happy state. Happiness in his power left free to will. Left to his own free will. His will though free, yet mutable. It is capable of being changed if you choose unwisely. He tells Raphael to warn them of the individual who is trying to snare the humans, and explain to them that it won't be by violence, but it will be by deceit. So Raphael makes his way to earth, and Adam first spots him. Haste hither, Eve, worth thy sight behold, eastward, among the trees, what glorious shape comes this way moving. Eve retires back to get a meal ready for the guest that is flying in. And Adam says, don't hold back, bring out the best stuff. This ain't every day we have an angel come and visit us. Adam strides out to meet the incoming angel. He bows, they chat, and then they reside back to the table to feast on what Eve has served up. After they finish eating, Adam takes the opportunity to ask some questions. It is clear Eve is not the only one curious about the unknown. He is curious about things above his world and those who dwell in heaven. The angel gives him a little info and says, wonder not, if you be found obedient, you have nothing to worry about. Here or in heavenly paradises dwell. If ye be found obedient, and retain, unalterably firm his love entire. Adam hangs by the word obedient, and he asks the angel, but say, what meant that caution joined, if ye be found obedient? Can we want obedience then? To him, or possibly his love desert? Adam is thinking, we have a choice in this matter, huh? Raphael replies back in what I consider the continuation of one of Milton's main points, of explaining the ways of God to men. Raphael says, attend, that thou art happy, O to God, that thou continue such, O to thyself, that is to thy obedience, therein stand. He says, this is what God wanted me to warn you about. You are in control of your actions, and you will be responsible for the outcomes. God made thee perfect, not immutable, and good he made thee, but to persevere he left it in thy power. Ordained thy will, by nature free, not overruled by fate. This is an important statement in Book 5. Regardless of what is prophesied, fate does not overrule free will. Our voluntary service he requires, not our necessitated. Such with him finds no acceptance, nor can find. For how can hearts not free be tried whether they serve, willing or no? Who will but what they must, by destiny? And can no other choose? Raphael says all the angels are the same. They have free will, and they freely choose to serve and obey God. They serve because they freely love. This conversation will quickly lead into the story of Satan choosing not to love. We're about to read what happens when the wrong choice is made. Choices have consequences in heaven and on earth. The consequences can be pain, hardship, or even hell. Adam at this point wants to hear the full story. Who is this Satan that is out to get us? Raphael pauses for a bit, and he asks some questions. How can he explain to an earthly creature the exploits of the warring spirits? Is he allowed to tell him about Satan's fall? And is the human sense even capable of understanding? Earth is but a shadow of heaven. But Raphael begins the story. As yet this world was not, and chaos wild reigned where these heavens now rowl, where earth now rests. So in the beginning we start. The heavens angels gather, and the ensigns and flags are high in the air. All of the angels are assembled to hear God speak, and to introduce his new son. Created, begotten, made, embosomed, sat the Son beside him. God speaks, and you get a sense of this roaring, thunderous voice across heaven. He addresses the thrones, dominations, princedoms, virtues, and powers. Everything is under God. All is under his rule. This day I have begot, whom I declare my only Son. And on this holy hill, him have anointed, whom ye now behold at my right hand. Your head I him appoint. And by myself have sworn, to him shall bow all knees in heaven, and shall confess him Lord. Does it sound like they have a choice? Bending a knee to some new family member just because he's royalty? You shall do this, and declaring we do that. Under his great vicegerent reign abide, united as one individual soul, forever happy. Him who disobeys, me disobeys, breaks union, and that day, cast out from God and blessed vision, falls into utter darkness, deep engulfed his place, ordained without redemption, without end. So, you have free will, but you will obey my decrees, or else. We also have to remember here that God knows the prophecy that is about to take place. He knows that one of his angels are going to fall and take many of them with him. He has to create something with his own power and ability to eventually save the human race he will eventually create. After God finishes speaking, the kingdom of heaven erupts in praise. They sing, they dance, they drink. A marvelous time is being had. But one angel, whose name is not spoken in heaven anymore, appears to be jealous. Out of pride, he cannot bear to witness the rise of the Son of God. Satan felt diminished impaired, and weakened by this new addition to heaven. Oh, how we dread changes in power. While most of us grumble and complain, Satan, as you will see, takes action. Deep malice thence conceiving in disdain, soon as midnight brought on the dusky hour, friendliest to sleep in silence he resolved, with all his legions to dislodge and leave, unworshipped, unobeyed, the throne supreme. Contemptuous, and his next subordinate, awakening, thus to him in secret spake. He tells old Beelzebub, "How can you sleep? Didn't you hear what was decreed yesterday?" What Satan says next reminds me of a scene leading up to a revolution. New laws thou seest imposed, new laws from him who reigns, new minds may raise in us who serve new councils to debate what doubtful may ensue. More in this place to utter is not safe. At this point, Satan wastes no time, and he starts to gather his crew. And all who under me their banners wave, homeward with flying march, where we possess the quarters of the north. So they go to the north to fortress up. There is going to be a battle at this point. Satan will not be following the Messiah, and he sure as heck is not going to be following any orders. This is not some small number that Satan is leading, and Satan is not a lowly angel, and he holds a high degree among the angels. But his lies have convinced a large number of heaven's angels to be tainted with his hate. But all obeyed the wanted signal and superior voice of their great potentate. For great indeed his name, and high was his degree in heaven. His countenance, as in the morning star that guides the starry flock, allured them, and with lies drew after him the third part of heaven's host. All the while the eternal eye of God is watching, seeing the rebellion that is unfolding amongst his angels, a group in outright defiance of his new commands. He turns to his son and smiling, he says, "Such a foe is rising, who intends to erect his throne, equal to ours throughout the spacious north. Nor so content hath in his thought to try in battle what our power is or our right." He says, let's prepare our forces, and God makes a comment that made me first think he was doubting. With speed what force is left, and all employ in our defense, lest unawares we lose. But after the word smiling was used, and you will see with the sun, it appears to be sarcasm almost. To whom the sun, with calm aspect and clear, lightning divine, ineffable, serene, made answer, "Might Father, thou thy foes justly hast in derision, and secure laughest at their vain designs and tumults vain." God and his son do not seem to be too worried about the situation. But turning back to Satan, he has just retreated to the north, and he has erected a large throne on a hill. He is very quickly settling into his new power. In speaking to his angels, he uses the same opening line that God did to his angels: thrones, dominations, princedoms, virtues, and powers. Satan wastes no time explaining what he desires. He wants freedom from the oppression he is claiming to be under. "Will ye submit your necks and choose to bend the supple knee? Ye will not, if I trust to know ye right, or if ye know yourselves, natives and sons of heaven, possessed before by none, and, if not equal all, yet free, equally free. For orders and degrees jar not with liberty, but well consist. Who can in reason then, or right, assume monarchy over such as live by right, his equals, if in power and splendor less, in freedom equal, or can introduce law and edict on us, who without law err not? Much less for this to be our Lord, and look for adoration to the abuse of those imperial titles which assert our being ordained to govern, not to serve." What a speech! How can you argue against liberty, justice, equality, and equity? If you bundle these terms up nicely, you can sell anything. Those are the key words that rattle your soul and can persuade the unpersuaded to fight against issues better left alone. Satan is using all the right key words to convince his band of angels and strengthen his cause. I mean, they are victims. They are being abused, and they will not serve some imperial title placed over them. Notice he says, why have laws when we do nothing wrong? Despite the fact that he just started a revolution and took a third of God's angels with him. Laws are often thought not needed by those not willing to obey them. At this point, a rebel amongst rebels appears. We are about to witness the powerful effects of what I like to call the nonconformist. Abdiel, at this point, stands up. A devoted angel to God, he's had enough. In a flame of zeal severe, he opposes what Satan has said. Listen here. "O argument blasphemous, false and proud, words which no ear ever to hear in heaven expected, least of all from thee, ingrate, and place thyself so high above thy peers." Abdiel is just getting started. I always admire the bravery of the individual surrounded by the foe, who can still bravely speak his mind, not intimidated by the crowds and not cowed by the jeers, but courageous in his own beliefs and not easily persuaded by the opposition. Abdiel says, you think it's unjust for the creator of everything to demand obedience to him? You really want to argue about liberty with the one who gave you liberty? Unjust, thou sayest, flatly unjust, to bind with laws the free, and equal over equals to let reign, one over all with unsucceeded power. Shalt thou give law to God? Shalt thou dispute with him the point of liberty, who made thee what thou art? Abdiel says we are all one under God. He created us and he created you. He warned Satan to cease what you are doing here. You are about to cross a line you do not want to cross. But his words fell on deaf ears, and none of the angels out of the third was willing to come back to the light. Satan replies back, and he asks some questions that make you question. You're saying God created us, but how do you know? Who saw when this creation was? Rememberest thou thy making, while the Maker gave thee being? We know no time when we were not as now, know none before us, self-begot, self-raised. If you want to undermine, make them question everything. What is safe if you demolish the foundation of truth? Souls become ripe for the picking, and Satan knows exactly what to say to keep the crowd on his side. At this point, Satan is even bold enough to threaten Abdiel. Our own right hand shall teach us highest deeds, by proof to try who is our equal. Then thou shalt behold whether by supplication we intend address, and to begirt the almighty throne, beseeching or besieging. This report, these tidings, carry to the anointed king, and fly, ere evil intercept thy flight. Notice the boldness of Satan continuing to grow. The crowd applauds Satan, but Abdiel stands strong. Fearless, though alone, encompassed round with foes, he answers boldly, I see thy fall, determined, and the hapless crew involved. In this perfidious fraud, contagion spread, both of thy crime and punishment. Abdiel says, thy scepter of God will break this disobedience. But he says, I'll fly and leave this awful place. But it's not out of fear that I am leaving. Yet not for thy advice or threats I fly. These wicked tents devoted, lest the wrath impotent, raging into sudden flame, distinguish not, for soon expect to feel his thunder on thy head, devouring fire. Then who created thee, lamenting, learn, when who can uncreate thee thou shalt know. Abdiel says the Creator can also uncreate. That is about as simple as it gets. So Abdiel, among the faithless, only he faithful, unshaken, unseduced, unterrified, his loyalty he kept, his love, his zeal, nor number nor example with him wrought, to swerve from truth or change his constant mind. Though single, from amidst them forth he passed, long way through hostile scorn, which he sustained, superior, nor of violence feared aught, and with restored scorn his back he turned on those proud towers, to swift destruction doomed. Abdiel showed a character here that I think deep down all of us admire. We all like to think we would be the one to stand up in truth. Book 5 ends with Raphael and Adam still at the table. So remember, this is still Raphael just telling the story to Adam about what happened. So now Adam is aware of who is after him. He understands how all this came about, and he knows that Satan is no little force to be reckoned with. So Raphael has just provided him a very valuable education. So before we move into Book 6 and saddle up with Michael and Gabriel to proceed north to Satan's stronghold, I want to let you know about the sponsor for this video, which is RALSTON College. As we saw with Raphael, an education can come in many forms, but institutions like RALSTON are more important than ever nowadays. When I see what has become of our education system, I am honestly confused. The current events has me questioning, is it repairable? I don't know the answer to that, but I know that institutions like RALSTON College are our single best hope. An education can be one of the most valuable achievements in life. And at RALSTON, you'll find just that. RALSTON's MA program in the humanities includes traveling to Greece for 2 months and studying ancient and modern Greek. With a strong focus on the classics, they are committed to building an understanding of the great works. From reading Homer in actual Greek to traveling through hell with Dante as you explore the human soul, RALSTON's focus on the great works is unparalleled. Because of their generous scholarship program, they ensure that all admitted students can attend regardless of their financial situation. With the college campus atmosphere we are seeing today, it is more important that we choose wisely. Having 4 children of my own, I have to consider this. And institutions like RALSTON are the only viable option I see at this point. Imagine learning Greek and studying the classical works surrounded by other like-minded individuals. It fosters an environment that lies at the heart of a true education. please go check out RALSTON's website, as they have an extensive amount of information and even some free lectures they release online via their YouTube channel and podcast. I truly want to thank RALSTON for sponsoring this video. Our Western culture and tradition have been under siege for quite some time. It takes courageous institutions that are willing to buck the waves of society to retain the culture that we have come to cherish. I truly wish them all the success in the coming years. Again, RALSTON's info can be found in the description below. Applications will be opening back up for the next semester soon, so feel free to reach out to them. I also saw that they were doing a 2-month trip to Rome and Sicily, where the students' focus will be a Latin and Italian immersive program. Talk about an amazing experience. Definitely better than the fate Satan is about to experience in Book 6. His place of destination will not be to the island of Sicily or amongst the statues of Rome. Let's move into Book 6 and set the stage. Book 6 overview. Raphael continues telling his story of Satan's battle with heaven. Satan holds out in battle for 2 entire days of strife, pain, and struggle. Before the 3rd day, God explains why his son will have to be the one to conquer Satan. The 3rd day begins, and we see the might of God's Son as Satan and his demons are vanquished to the deep. Let's go and step onto the battlefield and witness the emotions, fear, pain, and equipment that make up Book 6. We start out with Abdiel, the nonconformist, returning to God. All night the dreadless angel, unpursued through heaven's wide champaign, held his way till morn. He gets back to the friendly powers of heaven, and he is received with joy and acclamations. One angel was willing to choose good over evil when facing the power of Satan. He is being led through heaven when he hears a mild voice coming from a golden cloud. God speaking says, "Servant of God, well done. Well hast thou fought the better fight, who single hast maintained against revolted multitudes the cause of truth." The cause is seeking truth. Raphael is explaining all this to Adam. You will be tempted, but like Abdiel, you have to stand firm in the truth. This is what God wants. God continues to speak. "And for the testimony of the truth hast borne universal reproach, far worse to bear than violence. For this was all thy care, to stand approved in sight of God, though worlds judge thee perverse." That's a good line. Read that last one again. The only judge that matters is the one. Judgment of the crowd or the fallen angel is not what you should be seeking judgment from. God is about to go on the offensive now. Michael and Gabriel are commanded to commence a battle with Satan. Ironically, God does not use an overwhelming force to do this, but he only allows an identical number of angels to go and even fight, so to speak. The mission is simple. Drive Satan out of heaven and into the deep. They muster, they equip, and they march off as commanded. Ironically, on the path to battle, they see Satan marching toward them. We realize at this point that Satan was not sitting idle. The weaker force's strategy is usually to play defense, but not Satan. That self-same day, by fight or by surprise, to win the mount of God, and on his throne to set the envier of his state, the proud aspirer. Satan has not met opposition yet. He thinks his power equal, or maybe even greater than God's at this point. And as we're about to see, it takes pain for the reality of truth to set in sometimes. Satan strolls up and decked out in military garb, and standing before the one who would not bend a knee, Abdiel speaks. "O heaven, that such resemblance of the highest should yet remain, where faith and reality remain not." Abdiel says what you are doing is unreasonable. There is no virtue in it, and the truth you think you have found is false. I love the next line he speaks. "Though brutish that contest and foul, when reason hath to deal with force, yet so most reason is that reason overcome." Ponder that for a bit. Abdiel steps closer, empowered by the army of God that is at his back, and tells Satan what his plan was. You see, Satan was on his way to attack the throne of God, which he believed would be left unguarded if he moved fast enough. Another tactic of the weaker foe, to make an all-out attack on the head to eliminate the use of the body. Satan replies back, and is said with eyes askance. Is he too angry or too good to look at Abdiel? Is he too ashamed? Satan calls Abdiel the seditious angel. And then Satan drops a line that you just can't help but to cheer on deep inside. You know you should be on the side of truth and goodness, but deep down the desire to be free is strong. We all want to break free of something. Satan says, "At first I thought that liberty in heaven to heavenly souls had been all one, but now I see that most through sloth had rather serve ministering spirits trained up in feast and song. Such hast thou armed the minstrelsy of heaven? Are the musical angels really the ones that were sent out to defeat and subdue Satan?" He's trolling Abdiel at this point. Abdiel is getting heated, and he replies that he will only serve the divine God, worthiest to be obeyed. After speaking this, Abdiel commits to the first strike in the war against Satan. A noble strike he lifted high, which hung not, but so swift with tempest fell on the proud crest of Satan, that no sight, nor motion of swift thought, less could his shield such ruin intercept. 10 paces huge he back recoiled, the 10th on bended knee, his massy spear upstayed. At this point, Michael sounds the archangel trumpet. The call goes out, and the two armies clash together. Inextinguishable rage, horrid shock, stormy fury are just some of the ways that Milton describes this scene. In Raphael's description of the angel's performance, he says, "No thought of flight, none of retreat, no unbecoming deed that argued fear. Each on himself relied, as only in his arms the moment lay of victory." So as the battle is raging, Satan looks over and he sees Michael just taking out entire legions of troops, and he approaches him. Now we get to hear Michael, and I imagine a thundercloud screaming when he is speaking. "Author of evil unknown till thy revolt, unnamed in heaven, now plenteous as thou seest, these acts of hateful strife, hateful to all, though heaviest by just measure on thyself and thy adherents. How hast thou disturbed heaven's blessed peace, and into nature brought misery, uncreated, till the crime of thy rebellion? How hast thou instilled thy malice into thousands once upright and faithful, now proved false?" He is angry, and he is holding nothing back in regards to how he feels. Now Satan, being Satan, comes back with a line that would just fuel Michael's rage. Listen to Satan's reply. "Nor think thou with wind of airy threats to awe, whom yet with deeds thou canst not." Satan says, "You have not even beaten me yet." Airy words mean nothing on a battlefield. Satan also goes on to correct Michael's false accusations against him. "The strife which thou callest evil, but we style the strife of glory, which we mean to win, or turn this heaven itself into the hell thou fablest, here however to dwell free, if not to reign." Satan is not looking to just live in peace. This dude wants to rule. Also notice the fabulist hell comment. Almost like he doesn't believe that hell could exist. With parley ended, they both square up, and as the battle is raging around them, they come face to face. Now Michael's sword is special, and is from the armory of God, and tempered just perfectly, so that nothing might resist that edge. It met the sword of Satan, with steep force to smite, descending, and in half-cut sheer, nor stayed, but with swift will reverse, deep entering, shared all his right side. Then Satan first knew pain. Pain at this point enters the universe for the first time, or kind of so it appears. Satan's angels come around and they make a perimeter around him, and they help move him onto a shield, and they carry him off the battlefield. We see valor here in the evil angels, willing to save their master instead of retreating. A sense of devotion to him is witnessed here. But how did Satan feel about this? Not too good, as we see here. From off the files of war they him laid, gnashing for anguish and despite and shame, to find himself not matchless, and his pride humbled by such rebuke, so far beneath his confidence, to equal God in power. Like Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and this is Satan's moment of just that. When we think too highly of ourselves, we eventually discover the reality, often in an unpleasant form, wrapped in pain, hurt, and embarrassment. We also find the angels in Paradise Lost can't die. They can get hurt and they can heal, but none of the angels in Paradise Lost will be dying, because the poem says they cannot but by annihilation die. Other battles are raging at the same time. Gabriel against Moloch, Uriel and Raphael are on the flanks scrapping it out. Abdiel is battling Ramiel. So day one concludes and there is no clear victor. Satan has withstood one full day of the powers of God's angels and retires into the night. In the camp of Satan, he begins a pep talk to his crew. They have been tried in battle and was not overpowered. Satan says, "Found worthy not of liberty alone, to mean pretense, but what we more affect, honor, dominion, glory, and renown. We have sustained one day in doubtful fight, and if one day, why not eternal days?" So no longer is it just about freedom for Satan. He is looking for honor, glory, and dominion. He wants authority and power. He says, God judged this lot sufficient to subdue him, but here I stand. Maybe he does not have the power we all believe. One of Satan's crew, Nisroch, rises, and he is not in good condition. Bruised, battered, and beaten, he is not as enthusiastic as Satan is to go back out there the next day and get his face kicked in. He says, let's use something different in this fight. He who therefore can invent with what more forcible we may offend our yet unwounded enemies, or arm ourselves with light defense, to me deserves no less than for deliverance what we owe. Satan ends his chat with his crew, and to pump up his evil assembly, he says, "Meanwhile, revive, abandon fear, to strength and counsel joined, think nothing hard, much less to be despaired." At this point, they heed Nisroch's advice. Satan's crew begins to make cannons, and they dig up the ground to make black powder. And they create these war machines, and they array these cannons for the battle that is about to come. At this point, Michael's angels are rising up, and they're marching to battle. Now, they do not have to march long, because instead of Satan's army taking flight, as they had supposed, Satan has his troops in formation moving in to attack. Satan at this point is at the front of the army, and he starts moving his flanks out to brandish the new cannons they have created. As Michael advances, Satan prepares the triple-mounted row of pillars and loads the shot. At each behind, a seraph stood, and in his hand a reed stood waving, tipped with fire, while we, suspense collected, stood within our thoughts amused. Not long, for sudden all at once their reeds put forth, and to a narrow vent applied, with nicest touch, immediate in a flame, but soon obscured with smoke, all heaven appeared, from those deep-throated engines belched, whose roar embowed with outrageous noise the air. Iron globes shoot out at the angelic host and slam into God's angels. It completely takes them off their feet. It repels them backwards. The plan seems to have worked perfectly. Satan is boasting about the events, and him and Belial are making jokes about sending their new proposals in round weights or cannonballs. They think they have done something. Victory is indeed theirs today. In an extreme change of events in the poem, Michael's angels start to pull up mountains and hills from the earth and fling them into Satan's crew, smashing his armies under them and destroying the engines of war. A quick line sums this battle up. Infernal noise. War seemed a civil game to this uproar. Horrid confusion heaped upon confusion rose. God is watching all this from his throne, and the time is ready to announce who will be the actual victor of this war against Satan. His anointed son will take up the sword and finish the deed. God speaking says, 2 days are therefore past, the third is thine. For thee I have ordained it, and thus far have suffered, that the glory may be thine, of ending this great war, since none but thou can end it. Now obviously the Son of God accepts the mission. As the rays of light on the third morning started to appear, the Son of God sets off in his magnificent chariot. As he makes his way to the scene of the battle, Michael and the other angels immediately start to join ranks, a clear show of who is in command. Unafraid with constant advancement, the Son of God proceeds right up to the battle line. Satan has his troops ready for the third day of battle, and they know this is it. If they can beat the Son of God, the game is over. The Messiah tells his troops how they have been honorable, but the war is over him. The enemy's rage is all against the Son of God. As he speaks, he tells them that I alone am about to go into battle against this lot, and he transforms into something. So spake the Son, and into terror changed his countenance, too severe to be beheld, and full of wrath, bent on his enemies. The next scene gets intensely crazy. The sky gets dark and gloomy, and while grasping 10,000 thunders, he sends this force of sound before him. The power of God is being displayed through the Son of God, and the sight of him, the scene, is just too much. They, astonished, all resistance lost, all courage, down their idle weapons dropped. Lightning and fire is shooting forth towards the foes as he rides over them. It said at this point the enemy was left drained, exhausted, spiritless, afflicted, fallen. And the Messiah is not even using his full strength at this point, but actually holding back. The wall of heaven opens wide, and on the outside is a wasteful deep. Satan's army is pinned down, and they got two options. They can face the Son of God's wrath, or this unknown blackness. And they make their decision. Headlong themselves they threw, down from the verge of heaven. Eternal wrath burnt after them to the bottomless pit. They fall for 9 days, and remember in book 1 that they passed through this realm of darkness, and night who governs this place. Hell receives them, and it closes up the army of Satan. The Son of God is celebrated at this point. Alone, he battled the entire army of Satan and drove them into hell. He has proven himself. And we got to remember, this is still the story that Raphael was telling Adam. What happened in the past, he has now revealed to him. He is telling Adam that the evil that fought against heaven is on earth to deceive him. Think about the lessons, Adam. Obedience pays off. Abdiel was obedient. Michael and Gabriel fought hard. They were obedient. The Messiah was obedient. The power of God was with them because of that obedience. He is also saying God will punish. There is a price for sin. He puts it so clear in this last passage that you have to wonder how they could mess it up. Raphael says, when Satan reveals himself, be ready, but listen not to his temptations. Warn thy weaker. Let it profit thee to have heard, by terrible example, the reward of disobedience. Firm they might have stood, yet fell. Remember, and fear to transgress. The choice is up to them now. Are you going to learn from history, Adam, or are you going to repeat what has happened in the past? So they have been warned, and that is where Book 6 leaves off. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed Books 5 and 6 of Paradise Lost. We're halfway through at this point. The Penguin's classic version of Paradise Lost is linked in the description below. I would highly suggest reading it. There is an audio version on Audible that is just awesome. I will link the Audible version below for convenience. If you want to purchase my coffee and help support the channel, there's a link in the description below. You can use the code THECAUSE for 15% off your first order. Please like, comment, and share as it truly helps the algorithm. And I would love to hear from you in the comments below and discuss any portion of the poem. With that being said, don't forget to check out RALSTON College, drink some amazing coffee, read some amazing books, and I will see you very soon as we cover books 7 and 8, Paradise Lost. I love you all. Stay blessed. Thank you.
I was making lots of noise, busking on the city streets. I came back from Brooklyn, but you didn't come back for me.